Okay, today this video is for Ken L. Wheeler, aka Theoria Apophasis, on Facebook and Google and everywhere across the net with his Uncovering the Secrets of Magnetism. There's one thing I haven't noticed in your videos, Ken. Before I start, I don't know anything about magnetism really. I had visions and saw how all the universe was made using a double helix dielectric field, basically. So some of my terminology might be wrong. Some of my rotations might be backwards completely, or inflected or inverted. It doesn't really matter, because I know that you know what I'm talking about. So I've been trying to draw it. I've given it a good go. I've got some good bits, but I needed a physical representation to actually show how the dielectric circuit turns into the magnetic wave, because I know exactly how it does it, and smoke does it, because all energy is dielectric radiation. It goes from the dielectric circuit to the magnetic wave, vortex to wave, vortex to wave, vortex to wave, heteromag formation throughout the entire universe. The entire atomic world that's how it's constructed, of vortex to Ouroboros torus field wave, which of course is ones and zeros, which is why it works. So this is going to be quite a long video. It's probably going to bore a lot of people. I'm hoping that Ken, you'll see this and hopefully you'll understand a bit more, because I believe that your field is correct that you've drawn with your vortexes coming up, but that's not the way that energy moves through the magnet. The energy moves through the magnet in a dielectric circuit, which is then spills out into the Ouroboros torus magnetic wave. So I'm going to try and explain it. I've got a video after this. I'm just putting up the pictures to show my construction. So we have two pictures on the screen. It's just soldering wire that I bent up and then I'm going to fix together. So we have two. I've got clockwise there. I meant to do it clockwise. I just wrapped them up. It didn't really matter. So yeah, those should be clockwise, but clockwise or counterclockwise here, it doesn't matter. I'm still going to be able to show the same effect, because the field's inverse anyway. So one's clockwise, one's counterclockwise, containing two leaders. There's always two leaders. There's never one. There's always two that splits. It's fractal all the way down to infinity. So heteromax everywhere, inside each other, everything. So left picture, two leaders traveling counterclockwise. So I have the mechanics there, to show that I'm not cheating in any way and that Ken's work is absolutely correct, and that Ken's work corroborates mine. He has all the numbers and my work corroborates his, because I've seen it. So there we go. So on the right hand picture is where I have double helix linked them in, but then I've separated them. The separation point in the center there is where it hits a heteromag, because there's always one inside another. So even though those two have split, there is another one that is driving straight through the center of the matter. I don't know what matter is. It might just be a knot. That energy forces its way through the center and also then spills around the sides. I don't know. I honestly don't know what matter is. I just know that energy and matter are completely separate. So that splitting point happens because the center dielectric field hits something and turned into an Ouroboros itself. And so the two leaders behind it must split, because they can't go through whatever it went through. It has to travel around. So there we go with our two counterclockwise rotations, both traveling counterclockwise. The other way would be counterclockwise and clockwise, both traveling clockwise. But the arrangement would just be the reflection of that. All right, now I'm going to stick on a video where I explain how it turns into the field. And this field, even though it splits into two, is now a double sheath, because here's something I don't think you know, Ken. One is spinning at 135 degrees and one is actually spinning at 160 degrees. It's also got a rotational twist to it. The only thing I can corroborate with this is every single plant limb in existence. It shoots out a vortex, splits into two waves. Left hand side is 137.5, right hand side is 160. My numbers might be a little bit off, but it's some pictures of it. Now all my work is based upon this spin. I'm just going to skip past this quickly, but this is the double helix that I worked out by taking any circle, taking the circumference around to 137, taking that arc and turning it into a circle, then stopping that arc at 137 and joining everything up, and it gave me a 22.5 degree wobble if we flick it from reflection to reflection. So that's what these plants are based on. I chose several plants to make sure that it was in all kinds of plants. Now this is where I worked out the Lorentz force, and worked out that the Lorentz force is actually atom law, and that atom law is actually incorrect. On the screen there at the bottom left, you've got Vortex to Ouroboros Taurus, Vortex to Ouroboros Taurus, which totally negates atomic law, because they state that it's the distance energy between orbitals 1 and 2 plus the energy of orbital 1, which makes orbital 2, which is actually incorrect. Orbital 1 is already there. It's its own heteromac formation. So you've got a vortex out of that, plus the Ouroboros Taurus sphere. Many of those linking up will form an atom skin, or one may drop around it, an atom cloak, as I call it, because I've shown that on video, in water. So yeah, the actual atomic law is vortex to wave, which is the distance energy from 1 to 2, and orbital 2 is how you get orbital 2. It's got nothing to do with orbital 1 at all. But in the top center there, you've got clockwise and counterclockwise. So that's my Ouroboros Taurus spin of basically how it goes through magnetism, atoms, planets. It comes up in a double helix dielectric circuit, crosses itself, spins around, comes back into the center, and then is zoomed out as the Lorentz force. If you do that a million times and crush a load of rings together and squash them all tight and then release, you've got yourself a rail gun. Okay, and with that said, Ken, I'm now going to put on the video showing how the dielectric circuit turns into the magnetic wave. Okay, so this is me I've had to build this because I can't draw it. This is showing how the double helix dielectric field at the bottom there, the vortex, turns into a horizontal perpendicular halo wave. Now, as you can see, this is also the Aleph of God. Now, the funny thing is, though, it looks like this on paper, but it's actually this. So do you see? It's the change in orientation that allows for the shapes to be made. That is all. I haven't changed anything. This is still travelling as a dielectric circuit, but one is travelling clockwise, one is travelling counterclockwise. Now the thing is, when it hits something, the left-hand one bends forwards and will spin around to the front side due to the clockwise rotation of the entire beam. I have to say beam because it's one inside the other, both reversed left and right, due to the fact that that's just how it travels. When it changes levels, it becomes reversed. Like if you put a flat blanket on the floor, go to the inertia line at the halfway point and twist the whole thing, you now have the inside outside and the outside inside. The inside is clockwise, the outside is counterclockwise, and then it switches to the other way around, counterclockwise on the inside and clockwise on the outside. So I'm just going to put the camera down a second, and what I'm just going to do is, because this is rotating as it comes in, one of these leaders is at 135 and one of them is travelling at 160. Now I've compared this with plant growth, which I've either shown on screen or I'm about to show, and it's a drill with two screw heads. They're not completely in line, so when it hits something, one hits first. It spins out that way, not the whole thing, sorry, but this then spins out that way because it's travelling in the opposite rotation to the way it's going. The whole tube's going this way, it's spinning this way, so it spins out and kind of goes straight. This one though, because it's travelling clockwise and the whole thing is travelling clockwise, spins around the whole thing, and then they both join up on the other side like that. So there is a double Ouroboros ring in the middle, kinda. It crosses over on the far side, comes around at the front here, crosses over, goes back into the middle, and then back up. So it literally would look like that and that, which would give us obviously galaxy spin that way and galaxy spin that way. And again though, we come back to my favourite, is that it is
the elef of God, but it is in fact dielectricity and magnetism. Excuse me, Ken, if I'm using the wrong terms, but I do know you know what you're looking at. But this is how it works. And so, from one angle, it looks like the elef of God, which is the ram's horns. But it's actually all electricity, because God is energy, electricity, electromagnetism, that's what we have to call it. It moves things, it pulls things, it attracts things. And so, just like smoke, this one, I'm going to try and bend it here, will spin around to the front. Due to electrical pressures and other things. Like that. And so, suddenly, it's all looking very good, and it's coming this way. This then spins around in a heart towards each other, towards me, that way. So they would meet at the front, like that shadow, and then it would turn back into this again on the other side. So you got that and that, but they both loop around and then go in and across. Okay, I've just stopped the video and done this new video because I noticed an easier way to do this. So this would be a dielectric field, crosses over. I'll show this configuration again in the video where I said I was going to show the correct configuration. It spins out in a halo, and then it joins at the center where the inertial line is, where those two are about to meet. It then forms a vortex downwards, like that. And there's another vortex that joins it, and that spins around to the other side. So from the side it will go from that to that, and then back out at the bottom here, sorry. That's going down, and then that one would go up. So from there to there. Yeah, it's at the bottom, the vortex is at the bottom. Now the vortex is at the top, and that's how it does a looping wave. So I'll just take a photo of this and then put them together.
Okay, so this is a profile shot. We have clockwise travel coming in, spins around into an Ouroboros, crosses the inertial line in a cross like this. Then it spins out the other side, because now it's crossed over, and then out clockwise travel to the next point. And then I'll show this from above. And so the side view again then looks like a heteromac formation, because that's what everything is. Now this is obviously rotating, so it creates a bigger field, more goes through it. This just replicates clockwise, counterclockwise, up, down, left, right, and that is how you get an up and down waveform. Now we'll go back to the previous video, because everything else I say is correct, and then we'll see the correct configuration 5 minutes after that. I know it's a long video, but it's dead easy to explain, but it's really difficult to explain. So okay, here's the video.
Yeah, I'm quite pleased with that. So yeah, that's my double helix, both travelling the same direction. And right here would be where it hits a matter or energy barrier. Anything that energy is travelling straight through whatever it is, but whatever's in the centre there, this beam, there's one beam in the centre, there's always one in the middle, there's no getting away from it, it's fractal. This just increases as we get out. It doesn't change. Energy only works in several ways. It only does clockwise, counterclockwise, in, out, and positive and negative. And something else, I might have got that wrong. But yeah, there's only like 3 forces going on here. Clockwise, counterclockwise, positive and negative, and then as I say you've got in and out, which could be either positive or negative depending on the field that it is acting upon, the clockwise or the counterclockwise. So yeah, Ken, that is a visual representation of the magnetic flow. I mean, because it may actually no, sorry, that's what it's doing. It then zips out and flies around there. And the thing is, there is a sheath here because there are dielectric vortices between each of these two, which keep them together. Basically, it's an energy rung because, as I said, energy is moving up the middle, and energy then does this in the centre of that. So it comes up and splits. It's an Ouroboros torus field, a cross in the middle there, which eventually turns into the horns of God. Or smoke flow, because this is smoke flow. Smoke comes up in a dielectric double helix, splits over and rolls around into a halo wave, and if there's more energy it will actually try and zip back into the middle and shoot up another energy dielectric finger. But yeah, across here, because they've flipped and then one's travelling twice as fast because it's clockwise and clockwise, and this one's travelling counterclockwise but it's all travelling clockwise, so this only travels literally kind of straight-ish through a magnet. That's difficult to understand, really. This is moving at 0 speed, this is moving at twice the speed due to the fact that this is going clockwise, that's going clockwise, and that's going counterclockwise. I really don't know much about magnetism or what the hell I'm talking about. All I know is this is how it travels, and what do you know? It's also God, it's also the symbol for health, like the two snakes wrapping around each other. There probably should be a pine cone on the top of there, because that would be energy travel at the front, same as water going into a glass. If you pour fast water into a deep glass, you will see bubbles underneath, just like this. And that's because if you could take a still shot, that would make a pine cone made out of double helix, Ouroboros, toruses, and vortex fingers. Okay, I'm happy with that. That's brilliant. I couldn't draw it. But yeah, that crossover point is where a double sheath has now been enwrapped itself, exactly the same as your ice, where it spins over at the back, the outside becomes the inside, and the inside becomes the outside. That's what just happened there. It's also passed through itself, which means it's now, your north is that way, even though your north is that way, and your south is that way, even though your north is that way, because it pushed through the north, pushing it that way, and it pushed through the south, putting it that way. So you've got north and south over here, but it's bent like that. It's like two socks passing through each other. One of them's going to go one direction and another one's going to go another. So yeah, that's how you get the double sheaths, because this one spins around this way, this one spins around this way, but this one spins over the top, and this can be seen on planets with there's like a Y shape, a reversed Y, because this one spins around, a cloak drops down of the matter in smoke, of the matter that is contained here. I believe it happens in magnetism as well. There's no actual matter, it's just the field that is created by the dielectric twisting of the circuit. And so this one comes around, it's on the outside. This one comes around, it's on the inside, due to being 137 and 160 degrees. One of them is taller than the other, even though they're in the same sphere distance from here to here and here to here. If we drew a circle, they'd be exactly the same, but they're travelling forwards as a flat thing. And basically the tree of life goes like that. Then there would be a vortex, and then a bigger one, a vortex, and a really big one, and that's how the tree of life is built. So it comes across here, this one goes underneath, and they flip and turn over, but all of this is sheathed, and that's how you make a sphere. Comes out, crosses itself again, inside, outside, goes back in, and it will keep doing that, and that's how you get the magnetic fields and rings, because when this rolls around into a circle, it becomes an Ouroboros. Then another piece comes out of the middle, because that's where the vortex is, comes out of the middle and creates another one, and pushes this one wider. Okay, back to the video. Okay, so I just did a little bit of manipulation to get the correct design and rotation. I couldn't do that while I was holding the camera. So yeah, so there we have our double helix, and as you can see we have clockwise and counterclockwise on either side from a clockwise travelling, or counterclockwise, doesn't really matter which way around it is. I might have a couple of rotations backwards here or there, it doesn't really matter, because they're all doing what they should be or doing the opposite of what they should be. So we've got this is counterclockwise, but then I'm still going to get a split and a clockwise and a counterclockwise rotation. So you've got your left of God, and that is what it does. And it does that because it's just hit an object. One was forced right, one was forced left. This one has an opposite rotation to the rotation that it's actually in, and so it flips it. and causes an X. That comes down to the front. These two come in diagonally, cross each other, and then basically do exactly the same thing at the bottom, and go back up the middle. So yeah, that is how a dielectric circuit changes to an electromagnetic wave. Thanks.
Okay, so there we go, really. That is how a dielectric wave vortex turns into a magnetic wave. And as you can see on screen, that's also the cross of God. That's why it looks like it is. God is energy travel. That is our body. If I just separate the two beams at the bottom, we have legs. Starts off in the heart, pumps upwards, and that's how basically you get arms, legs, and a head. And it's exactly the same flow in everything. So that's about it, Ken, really. Thank you for watching, if you did watch. If you didn't, it's no big deal. It's just nice to find somebody that actually understands what's really going on. I have subscribers that know what's going on. That's why they're following me. But you are the only person that knows exactly what's going on, and I know exactly the travel. So I'd like to hope that I might have helped you out here in some way. I don't really know, you know. You may have already understood and done this yourself, but hey, who knows. So now I've got a million things to add on this video, so that's basically the travel. If anybody wants to switch off, go ahead, but now I'm just going to kind of place it in all of Ken's work and show diagrams and stuff that are like mine. So here we go. Okay, here's some fun stuff about how I made an infinity loop. I took a straight piece of paper, I then folded it. Now this point, I folded it out the direct center of the paper. Basically, I could have just twisted that up and I would have got my dielectric field, but I'm just showing also the rotations. So one is going clockwise and one is coming towards us counterclockwise. And then I twist it, so one's traveling clockwise and clockwise and one is not. So one is straight and one has a twist in it. The more twists, the heavier the material, because of the more electrical pressure that is pushing downwards and pushing through it. The more twists, the more electrical pressure within something, so that is weight and mass. So yeah, so I joined the two ends together, just flat-ended, so that they would both become a vortex, but I put a twist in one of them, and in one picture I think I put two twists to see what would happen. Then I have basically photographed it, bent it inside, inflected it, reversed it. I have not undone the two vortex ends on any of these pictures. I have merely pushed both together, pulled both apart, twisted them inside out, twisted half inside out. So the rest of the pictures that you're going to see are all based upon this. Two vortices meeting at two vortices with a twist in it. And that is basically what I just showed you with the metal Ouroboros vortex shape. This is exactly the same. Relatively, it's just lengthwise, so the shapes that have come out are actually quite incredible, really. So I've got about 15 pictures. Some are repeats or the inflection of, so you got your figure 8, that's the opposite side of it. There's a basic heart shape again coming towards us. Then you've got like your C shape. This can be seen in clouds going from level to level. We have your crossover point at the front, so it's only kind of one half, if you notice. So here I am just twisting it. So this is this U-shaped or N-shaped infinity loop. Basically explains all shapes because they're all in here. Most of them are heart-shaped and most of them have a cross on. That's where they cross at the front. A couple of them I looked at black on one side and white on the other. If you look at that one looks exactly like a treble clef, and treble clefs are music waves. That again is a double twist with a heart. That's your single twist. So the more twists means more energy runs through it, which is more gravity. There's your wonderful infinity loop look in there. And then we get some right weirdo shapes that popped up at the end here. So yeah, this is just me kind of messing around with an infinity loop and pushing it inside out to get different kind of shapes, which is kind of how the yin-yang works. That's kind of how it travels in magnetism if you just bend it. And then, of course, that's kind of all inside out and all over the shop. It was all very much fun. Now, I always try and show that that's how energy is traveling. And so here we have the heart, which is an electromagnetic pump, basically. So you got your blue and you got your red. Blue comes in as 2 clockwise and counterclockwise, mixes as an Ouroboros in the center there, dual helix Ouroboros torus ring wave, and then goes through the valve and back out, and then splits again into 2. And the red, that comes in as 2, turns into an Ouroboros torus field inside the chamber, out through the valve, and then back into 2 or 3 or 4. So yeah, heart flow is exactly the same as magnetism, which basically looks like this. So as I showed earlier, with the metal going up and down and across, that's basically double helix flow. This is basically how it works with a wave roll area, pointy to wave, and that's basically your inside out fields where they cross. This is Jupiter, and basically that's double helix planetary ring formation. When it can no longer pass through the center of the planet, it then rolls out and begins pushing out circles, and that's the configuration of travel of those. And this was on and this is steam versus magnetism, which basically flows exactly the same, because energy flow through a pan will create an Ouroboros torus field, which then turns into a clockwise rotation at the top, both traveling clockwise and counterclockwise. I deleted that video because it wasn't quite correct, and I knew I needed to make this video instead. So this is another piece of paper showing magnetism and steam flow. This is the Tesla fluid diode versus smoke travel, and again it's exactly the same. Vortex in, Ouroboros, vortex out. Vortex in, Ouroboros, vortex out. This is exactly the same as smoke travel, which is exactly the same as magnetism. Now this is a picture of magnetism that couldn't really, that's why I did the metal things, because you can't get any kind of 3D effect here. Clockwise in at the bottom, splits at the top, rolls around to the side. This is exaggerated, it should be flattened, but more waves will create the egg shape. It's losing power all the time, that's why it is a large loop and a small loop. It crosses over in the center, rolls back into another Ouroboros wave, swings back into the middle and back up through the top. So I couldn't actually explain that properly, but the modes of travel are all on there doing what they're supposed to be doing. And then this is kind of what Ken's got, and basically I'm showing the difference here of why one sheath is over the top. So they both look the same, but they're about to roll over here, but the distances, as you can see by the sphere, are exactly the same. But the one traveling at 137.5 is lower than the one traveling at 160. So the one traveling at 160 hits first and spins out one way, and then the 137 hits and spins out the other, while the rest drives through the center. Now I drew this because I had to. I could just see a ball rotating in those directions, even though it isn't actually possible. But those are kind of the modes of travel of the field as it swaps sides. I think Ken's got something along these lines somewhere, I don't know. But I drew this ages ago, I don't even know when I did it, but I had to get it out of my head. I didn't understand what it meant because it was to do with magnetism. So as you can see on there, we've got our crosses, which I showed you with the paper. Ken, if you're still watching, I know you understand this picture. Everything's going everywhere. I'm seeing all this. I can see all this, which is really great. And that's because God shoved it all in my head by electricity magnetic download into visions, as you spoke about. If you had these massive wireless hubs in your house, you said it would actually induce visions and vomiting and all that, which is the poisonous power of our energy. But God, whatever he did to me, I didn't suffer any ill effects. In fact, I felt more energized and fantastic than I'd ever felt. Excuse me. While having all these visions, nothing else happened apart from feeling absolutely fantastic and understanding the power that is to come and how we're all going to feel, which is absolutely amazing and unbelievable. So yeah, my visions were from God, and it was pure and unaffected me. And your wireless hub houses will give people visions and make them vomit and eventually kill them, because it'll basically cook them like a microwave. Okay, this was where I froze a magnet in some glass too, and this is where the two sheaths passed over and under each other. And if you have a look at the red lines that I put through the lines that are crossing underneath, we go from 58.5 to 125, which is 60 to 60, 65, 67.5, which is half of 137.5, I believe. It's very close. In fact, I think that comes out to 135, which I'm quite happy with. But basically, I've shown you this picture because this is where they meet. But I'm now going to show you proof that there is a sheath between that reversed Y, and that it's hollow in between, basically.
Oh yeah, and there's also space between levels this way and this way, as seen by the water tip. See that? That's a water line inside there, which has melted. But now it can be seen to be tipping. But there's nothing in there. See? Nothing's coming out, except for a little bit. And as you can see, as it falls down, there is a space between each magnetic level, dictated by that water flow there, showing that there is a passageway between vortex shield fields. There is a space, because of course there is. They're in layers. Magnetism is in layers.
Now this is really interesting. These lines are part of the field lines. This is the area, it's a tube that carries the energy, like wires, basically. They're running through your house. But the thing is, every single one of these bubbles is a heteromag formation, and it is, from what I've read, transporting hydrogen one way and oxygen the other. So basically, the different rotations will electrically separate H2O into hydrogen and oxygen. So I've already told us the angles of degree, 160, 137.5. So one of those is a hydrogen angle and one of those is a oxygen angle. And while we're on the subject, the Earth is a magnet. And basically, that's how it splits water, so water into hydrogen and oxygen in our air, which is what gives us our atmosphere. So, because I've got my collection of universal voltage drop, which means the energy in the universe is failing due to vacuum, decay, entropy, whatever you want to call it, excuse me, our planet isn't receiving as much energy from the sun. The sun is going to sleep. Everybody knows it, and if you deny it, you're a bit of a pudding, really, and need to learn some science. So, our energy is dependent on the sun. If it goes down, our atmosphere will shrink. Also, what will happen to the water? Well, water is normally being split into hydrogen and oxygen to create the atmosphere, but if there isn't enough electrical energy within the planet to do that inside the heart of the planet, which sends water upwards, then the seas will rise, because water will not be evaporating into clouds. Everybody wonders why we don't have any clouds anymore. Well, the process of electrification, which splits water into hydrogen and oxygen, isn't working very well. And so the sky eventually will come down to the ground, as per mythology, which states, according to David Tolbert, that the sky came down to meet us. That's part of mythology, and it's because of a universal voltage drop. And here I can throw in God, where he basically said, I will chastise Israel 7 times. Let's just say we've been here 7 periods of time. I can't say 7,000 years, because 1,000 years is not really as long as it used to be, because time is a factor of energy flow. So, time is shortening, and basically our EM field is shrinking, which is also pulling in the atmosphere and compressing it, which is why we're getting extremes in heat and cold. As the energy shields fail, less hydrogen and oxygen is getting pumped out, And so our atmosphere isn't as pressurized, our shield comes down, and our seas rise. It's got nothing to do with shit melting. That's a joke. That's a lie. Stupid scientists who've no idea that energy and matter are separate. They believe in gravity fusion crap. And basically, they're the dumbest people on the planet. They are parrots, deluded repeaters of nonsense. Everything is electrical. Our sky is coming down because our field is shrinking. Our seas are filling up because it's not being electrified into clouds. You see the repeating circular cycle here. And so waters will rise. They will get hotter as more and more shields change and come in due to the way magnets work. Things drop to different levels. So suddenly an extra level is getting heated up. And also, if there's no electricity, as much electricity in the atmosphere, then the nitrogen isn't getting electrified, and electrified nitrogen kills germs. So, you want to know when pestilence is going to arrive? Very soon. As soon as our shield fails, pestilence will arrive like a bastard. And why? Because there's no electrified nitrogen to kill germs. So, sickness, you're damn straight, it's going upwards now. It's going upwards because we are electrically deficient. Yeah. So yeah, God also says he'll chastise us 7 times. 7 voltage drops, 3 major. The last one is going to be the end of the world. And I'm leaving with the Lord. Anybody who's not following Jesus, and I don't mean religion here, I mean you treat your brother as you want to be treated, which means love everywhere. And that way is the only way you're leaving. Because this world is doomed, and it's due to electrical failure. Okay, I should get back to what I was talking about. So, those field lines are heteromach bubbles. And that's where the energy is rotating.
I don't know what we can see in here. I see general rotation. From the left there and spinning around this way. But other than that, can't see much more. Yeah, those bubble lines would have been nice, I bet there. They're all expanding now. But yeah, that's bubble after bubble after bubble, which of course is a heteromach formation. Bubbles upon bubbles is a vortex to Ouroboros torus sphere and back again. So you get bubble after bubble after bubble, which of course is energy travel.
And so the very fact that the bubbles are heteromach formations and the entire magnet is a heteromach formation just shows that it is a repeating fractal pattern throughout the universe. And there we go. There's probably more, and there was. This video could be hours long. It doesn't even matter anymore. Hopefully I've fully explained dielectric to magnetism. And basically we come back to Habakkuk 3:4, original Hebrew in the Bible, which is where God led me to find out that he has horns coming from his hand. Double helix horns. And that's the shape it makes, which is our body shape. And so God is proven by energy travel and scripture. And I've proven it in every single medium. And Ken Williams, the genius that he is, has figured out all the equations with phi and whatever they are that I can't fit in my head because all I have is pictures. So yeah, picture on the screen is the cross. It is Jesus on the cross. It is energy. It is magnetism. It is telling us that God is pure energy, electricity, electromagnetism, because those are the only forces in the universe that actually do anything. So Habakkuk 3:4, original Hebrew. Don't go to any new Bibles because it's nonsense. The enemy have changed all Bibles to be a pile of shit. A magical fairy story that cannot be understood unless you go to the original Hebrew and see the direct translation. 2 horns come from God's hand. And from his hand, from his hand, horns protrude. And this is the hiding of his power. Yes. And it has been uncovered by me and Ken Wheeler. Visions and numbers for you. So go see Ken Wheeler. Hopefully, Ken, I've shown you a little bit extra here that you could do something fantastic with, because I can't do any more with this because I don't know anything about equations. I do, but my brain won't allow it. I have to build it as if I had to build that because I can see it, but to draw it is incredibly complicated. So there we go. I'm calling for repentance. Repent, turn to God, find out what you're supposed to do, learn right from wrong, because I'm sorry, atheists, you don't have a God, so you have nobody to answer to. And so you just do whatever the heck you want. I used to too. We've all done it. And then I discovered right from wrong. And then God sent me the Spirit because my heart was correct, because all I want is peace. And this world doesn't offer it. I'm so sick of being here. So yeah, turn to God before it's too late, because electrical deficiency diminishes inversely via the square of the distance, which is a Fibonacci spiral. So energy will decrease, and then suddenly it will be a runaway bloody train, and inside of 7 years we will all be dead. Revelation times are almost upon us. This planet is about to start upheaving itself. I don't know when, but all I do know is that all normal mainstream scientific reports state that the sun is going to sleep, our shields are failing, weird stuff's going on in the universe, and as God says, the universe is going to disappear like smoke, because smoke is radiation travel, and all energy throughout the universe is radiation travel, vortex to a double helix Ouroboros torus and back to double helix vortex. Thanks very much. My name is Lee, and I'm a Christian.